What's up, guys, and welcome to Gaming News Weekly. Today, we're talking about Best Buy and their best idea ever, as well as how talk is heating up around the Switch successor. A few smaller items, though, before we get into the bigger stuff. First up, Monster Hunter World has seen its highest concurrent players in over 3 years. Of course, this has to coincide with the announcement of Monster Hunter Wilds, the next iteration of this series. Now, Monster Hunter Worlds was a huge success, breakout for the series, and definitely worth getting into, especially if you're interested at all in Wilds, which comes out in 2025. At least that's what they've said so far. But pretty cool to see that resurgence of a game that already had a pretty substantial player base as they went through, and now it's just kind of making the rounds again. Second up, Star Wars Outlaws has been reported to be releasing late 2024. I don't know how much of a surprise that is. I guess I probably would have slated it in for early 2025, but a late 2024 does kind of make sense, and hopefully we can get a good game out of this. Ubisoft can really hit or miss for me, but if we can get a cool story and an interesting character and some good gameplay, an open world Star Wars game that isn't about Jedi is always a good opportunity. So be on the lookout for that. Staying on with Star Wars though, the latest rumor going around is that id Software, the developers of Doom, are making a Mandalorian game. Now, my only concern with that is I want a Mandalorian game third person. And, you know, id Software is known for their first person. But either way, Mandalorian is one of the best things to come out of Star Wars in recent memory, and so having it by a legendary developer like id Software, I think, is nothing but aces for us. All right, next on to some of the bigger stuff. The first thing we got up is from CD Projekt Red. Now, of course, this is the developer behind The Witcher and Cyberpunk. And in a recent interview with the studio's CEO, Adam Kaczynski? I'm not sure how you say that, maybe. But he was speaking with a Polish outlet, which is where the studio is from. And he said the company has no desire to be bought. They don't want to be brought into a bigger gaming group or whatever. Say, quote, "We value independence." He also said later on in the interview that they don't want to just be buying other studios just because. He doesn't want to just bring in for the cash. He's only looking for them when they make sense, and the truth is, as far as I know, they've only bought one other studio. Right now, though, as part of that interview, they also talked about what they got in the works, which, of course, we know they're working on the next Witcher in the series. We know they're working on Cyberpunk 2. That's already kind of been confirmed as they're making a new studio in Boston, but they also working on a new IP. All of them are at different stages, but sounds to me like they're all fairly early in development. CD Projekt has really been able to right the ship after a disastrous launch of Cyberpunk 2077. Having garnered almost universal praise from their more recent expansion in Phantom Liberty, even if they had been interested in consolidating with a bigger gaming group, I don't see any players in the field now that would be able to make that happen. Microsoft, having just finished the Activision Blizzard deal, isn't going to have room for that. They were already under a microscope for so long. They're guaranteed they're going to lay low for a little bit before they start buying up anything else. They will acquire more studios, but I think they're going to lay low for a little while. Sony, they don't have the capital to buy something like CD Projekt. It's too big, too many employees, and the $3 billion they spent on Bungie, and then having some layoffs and all these different things, they're not in the game. Nintendo doesn't play this way, not to mention as a studio, it doesn't make sense because they don't have their stuff on there. I guess Witcher 3 got on there, but right, they're not developing for the Switch. Also, the other big players are Epic, who just laid off a whole bunch of people, Amazon, who just laid off a bunch of people in gaming, and Apple, who isn't playing at this level yet. So there's not really any buyers out there to consider getting them. So it's kind of a non-issue at this point, but regardless, this consolidation in the gaming industry is going to keep happening. Studios are constantly losing money or having issues with something, and bigger studios sweep them up. That's just going to be part of the industry. So we got to keep an eye out for that and see how that's going. The good news is, though, that the indie space is growing even more than it has before. It's massive. Tons and tons and tons of smaller studios, smaller labels are creating passion projects that are profitable to continue making games. And so that keeps us from the worry of only having the big players and none of the little guys. That's not the landscape we're in. So don't worry about that, but it will continue to change. And so we'll have to keep our eyes on that. So make sure to subscribe and I'll keep you updated on all the goings on. Next up is Best Buy and how they are vacating the physical media space, as they announced recently that they will sever ties with physical media, including DVDs, Blu-rays, and CDs. It's unclear to me if that includes games. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to say that, so I don't think it does yet, but you gotta assume that's only a matter of time if it's not already part of it. This is yet another blow to those of us who like having physical media, who like having some ownership of the stuff we buy. I have actually incredibly fond memories of Best Buy. As a teenager, walking around and looking at CDs, trying to find an artist you don't know yet. And Best Buy used to have people that were trained specifically in those different areas who could come and talk to you about the bands you like and what kind of artist you might be interested in and what they had. It was a super cool experience. Best Buy was one of the coolest places to go look. Instead of like the mall or something, we'd always look at like the next gadgets that we would never be able to afford, or looking at the games, or the huge like displays they'd set up for the different things coming out. I used to just love it. I still enjoy going to Best Buy now, but it's for a completely different reason, because the truth is, and anyone who's been in Best Buy in recent years, those physical shelves have shrunk year after year, constantly moving out of the way for other tech to be displayed. You know, whether it's the new, smart fridge or smart appliances or whatever, there just isn't the room for the physical media that probably just doesn't move units like it used to. And so it is an unfortunate byproduct of the age we're in that physical media is going away to more specialized sellers and less of the big box stores. I'm not saying we didn't see it coming. I'm just saying it kind of sucks. All right, it is the beginning of the year of 2024, so naturally, the only rumor that ever really mattered is back in the spotlight, the limelight again, and that is that Switch 2 is on the prowl. Now this time, we had the revolutionary info drop from a Tokyo-based insider. What he said is that the next Switch would be more of an iteration and less of a revolution. Oh man, didn't see that one coming. Wait, of course I did. We all did, right? Of course it's gonna be an iteration. The Switch has sold like hotcakes, constantly moving units, constantly selling. It's sold so many. It's one of the highest selling Nintendo system. I don't think it's past the DS yet, but it probably will. It's moved so many units and software for Nintendo. It's been a huge success. They'd be stupid to walk away from that. So of course, the Switch 2 or Super Switch or whatever the heck they're gonna call it, hopefully it's not the Switch Plus, but Nintendo, it very well might be. It's coming, and I tend to be in the camp that believe it's coming out this year in 2024. But who knows with Nintendo? It's really tough to tell. Same as what we assume it's going to be, that iteration, that small changes, small upgrades, that kind of thing. This insider is saying he expects it to be $400, and just an upgrade in the internals, which I'm perfectly fine with, and I know most people are. Personally, I'd love it if it just was a little bit better quality. I know a lot of you haven't had issues, but my Switch has had nothing but issues. We've had a couple of units break down, the constant problems with the Joy-Cons. We've had software just not work, stupid things that have just been a pain and really kind of made me gun shy with Nintendo, which is a bummer because there's a lot of history there and a lot of nostalgia for Nintendo and the things that they produce, and I love how family friendly so many of their titles are, but the amount of problems I've had with the Switch, we haven't had a working Switch in the house in quite a while. I just want them to fix that kind of issue. And if they'll do that, then I'm down, right? Of course, I fully expect that whenever it releases, it's gonna sell crazy. People are insane about the Nintendo Switch. They buy multiple of the same console and multiple games, and so many people are like crazy in love, right? That it's like the best console ever and all that kind of stuff. And I'm happy for you guys if you love it. I like it. I like Nintendo. I think this stuff is good. I just hope that this next iteration is better, long lasting. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. Also, that Switch 2 rumors are going to continue until the thing's released. I mean, people just love this stuff. So I will try not to just constantly push it out there. I'm not big on that kind of thing, but it's in the round. So keep your ear to the ground, and I'll let you know what's going on. All right, we're moving into kind of the new games section, stuff that came out, stuff that's announced, all that kind of stuff. For this one, what's coming out this next week, we're in early stages of January. So nothing came out last week, not really. And come this week, there's not much yet. Momodora Moonlit Farewell is coming this week, and that's a small, like, pixel art 2D action RPG. But outside of that, there's not a lot coming. Now, the week after that, we'll get a little bit, and as we go, we're going to start rolling, and it's going to continue. When we get to February, this thing is going to be going crazy. Make sure you're watching the channel. I get monthly RPGs coming out, and then I'll tell you about more stuff here that's not only RPGs. But as of now, we're in the quiet season before all the doors blow open. So, take a chill pill, breathe, and rest until we get into the real heart of it. We do have some free game stuff going on, and I'm going to try to keep you up to date on this stuff as well. This is the free gaming corner, okay? In GamePass, we've got new stuff coming in for the month. A few of it already dropped. A couple is going to drop on the day this video drops, and then a few coming later. We got Close to the Sun, which is like a first-person narrative adventure thing. Held Let Loose, which is like a shooter. You got Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Figment will both drop the same time as this video. So if you're interested in any of those are Game Pass. So that's, good options there. More will come next week, and we'll talk about that on the next show. One thing to note though is as of next week, there's several titles that are going to be leaving Game Pass, including Persona 3 and 4, GTA 5, Garden Story, and MotoGP 22. Some of those probably aren't that big a deal, but the Persona games were kind of lauded big, and they ended up being there about a year. And then same with GTA 5, it's about only 6 months, and it's gone. So Game Pass is a great deal. It had really a lot for your money, but this is the downside to these subscription services, right? Is that they can leave that service and you don't have them anymore. Those are next week. And so unless you can no-life it, you probably don't have time to beat Persona 3 or 4. That said, next month we got Reload coming, and that will be in Game Pass. After that, we got in Epic Games. They've been giving away a game a day during the holiday period, so I hope you've been keeping up on that and getting your games. They've had some pretty notable good ones. The last day game was A Plague Tale Innocence, so that's a good pickup there. And then it moved right into, now we're back to the weekly releases, and this one is Guardians of the Galaxy, which has been lauded as a pretty good game. So if you haven't played that one, there's a good option for you there. Again, it's free for a week, and then we'll get something called Sail Forth, which is like a cute little sailing adventure game. Amazon is continuing their kind of slow drip feed where they're, like once a week or so, they give a game away, and then it's good for like a month. So this week it was Endling. I don't know much about that one, but you can get that until February 7th. Guys, these are free, okay? So make sure you're picking these up. Even if you're not sure you'll ever play it, it's a free game to add to your library, and maybe one day you will, and you just have it. So there's no reason not to grab them. You might as well. On that note, PS Plus, not extra premium yet, but just the monthly games. You get Plague Tale Requiem, which is the second. So if you had that one from Epic, and then you get this one on PlayStation, they're both there. Although Innocence might also be on the extra tier. I'm not sure about that though. So that's a good option. Evil West is kind of a crazy, like, third-person action title. And then Nobody Saves the World, which is a really unique class-based kind of action RPG, okay? So again, make sure you claim those. Those are free games that you kind of own. Not really, but kind of, right? It goes in your library, and as long as you're a Plus member, you can play them. They stay in your library though if you don't pay for PS Plus and you leave for months and then come back, then you can play them again. So it's still better than something like the subscription service where you just won't be able to, they'll just disappear. And if they go away, they go away. But in these, they stay with you, and then anytime you become a member, you have access. So it's something, right? We're gonna move on to Indie Spotlight. Now, this is, in the future, I want to be highlighting as many indies as we can, cool looking games to get eyes on them so that people can see some cool stuff that's coming up that they might not have noticed before. To that end, I'm gonna ask you guys to send me cool ones that you find. Comment on the video, come in and send it to me on Twitter or X or whatever the heck we're calling it. Make sure you let me know the games that you're seeing that look cool. If you're developing a game, let me know. I also have my work email is in the descriptor on YouTube, so you can hit me up that way as well. Let's get some eyes on these cool games. So this week, as I'm just kind of getting started, I'm just gonna send you the way of Varen's Call. Don't forget to wishlist these games, as that helps indie devs out a lot. Follow them on all their stuff, whether it's Twitter, X, whatever, YouTube. Find them and follow them. That just giving these guys a support, I think, is a big deal. Varen's Call looks super cool to me. Right now, it's saying it's coming soon. We'll see, but I think it has some real promise there. So, all right, and last up we have Best Story of the Week. Now, I'm hoping to have one of these for each show, but you never know what you'll find. So hopefully I'll be keeping this up. So again, if you guys see cool, like feel-good stories or really cool things happening in the gaming space, send them my way so we can share it, because this one is super cool. Just an incredible thread on Twitter or on X, whatever. A user wrote Larian, which is the developer of Baldur's Gate 3, about how his dad and him used to play Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 together. And he also shares how they played Divinity 1 and 2. And so when they heard that Larian was going to be developing Baldur's Gate 3, they were super excited to play it together. Unfortunately, his father then got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and they were heartbroken that they weren't going to be able to play this together. Then Larian brought out early access to Baldur's Gate 3, and didn't just give like a tiny little thing, but basically the whole first act with a huge amount of stuff to do. Yes, it had bugs and some of them sucked, but not too bad. There's still a lot to play without bugs. And so he and his father got to play early access together, and they loved it. He particularly was sharing how his dad was just so excited and loved that the Mind Flayers were an enemy, because that was one they loved as part of the universe, and they loved fighting them. And so it meant so much to him that he and his dad got this time to play together. Following that, a person at Larian, and as of right now, they're unknown who it is. They're not. If it comes out, that'd be great, but it doesn't really matter. But someone at Larian emailed this guy, and kept emailing him because he didn't see it, and asked him if he would be okay if they put something to, memorialize his dad in Baldur's Gate 3, because this story resonated with so many of them at the studio who also had family who were dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's. Of course, he said yes, absolutely. So then he waits, and he's expecting, as any of us would, some little mention in a book or some kind of cool thing or whatever. Well, when he told his dad that they wanted to do this, the dad was so excited, he said, "Oh, tell him thank you and send him a picture." So he took a picture of him with a goofy smile, and he sent it in saying, "Hey, my dad wants you to know how thankful he is," and blah, blah, blah. So then you get into the game, and he asks where he could find it, and they tell him, well, here's the area. So if you play Baldur's Gate 3, when you get to Baldur's Gate, if you go into the lower city, there is this place called Galbraith's Cellar. There's an NPC there called Galbraith, and you can find him there. But not only does this NPC's face look remarkably like that goofy smiling face of the dad that this guy sent in, but there's papers all around that talk about him. There's letters between him and his son. there's stories of him as this great mind flare hunter. And this NPC doesn't just grunt or dead or something. He has multiple lines of dialogue that you can share with. As you can imagine, this greatly touched the guy who wrote in and the dad. And they were so thankful. They wrote this heartfelt thank you to Larian. Person from Larian saw and showed it on Twitter saying there wasn't a dry eye in the studio when they read it. And they were so grateful for being able to honor this mighty mind flare hunter. And how freaking awesome is that story? Like, not only that this guy got that opportunity with his dad and then shared it for us to read, but how much it touched Larry, and then that they contacted, were able to do this, and then that they put this whole thing in the game. In fact, the lady who wrote back is the one who wrote this guy's part, who wrote his story and the things around it. How awesome for them to have something like that, some meaningful connection with this fan, and then put it into the game. What a cool story. And to me, at least, yet another reason why Larian absolutely deserves all the praise and accolades they got this year. All right, and that's it for the week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button on the way out, as it helps me out a ton. And let me know if you hear these stories. Like I said, keep an eye out on new stuff coming. We'll be talking about it each week. Make sure you're subscribed if you're new to the channel. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Good hunting.